Hi, hello, and welcome to the video. Today we're doing another declutter. We are going through blushes, bronzers, and highlights, like probably my second biggest category. It's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try to get rid of things. Let me know if I either kept your favorite thing or got rid of your favorite thing. I know we all love to peek into people's collections, so let's go ahead and get started. I have all my blushes. Let's go ahead and get started because this is like the biggest category. I have these half magic blushes. I'm keeping all of them. Easy, done. This Patrick Ta palette, this is the second edition of their blush palette. Hopefully you can see I barely used it because it's not that great. I'm passing it along. Next up, I have my Salt New York blushes. I'm going to keep these three. This one right here is a highlight. Just gonna set it behind. I have more Salt New York. I need to go through and see which ones are no longer available. The ones that are no longer available, I'm going to get rid of, and I'll list those in the description box below. Even more from Salt New York, and this one is a Kier Weiss blush. I have to go through the website and see which ones are no longer available. They'll be listed in the description box below. I'll be getting rid of those, and the ones that are still available I'm going to keep. I have this blush quad from Mom Beauty. These are all individual blushes that you can place into the quads or 6-pan. I'm going to keep these. In here I have two highlights, a bronzer, and a blush. These are all creams. Going to keep them all. My Danessa Myricks Dewy Cheek and Lip Palette. I don't use this very often. This shade in particular I have not used at all, so I think I'm going to wipe off the top layer and pass it along. Alma by Sharon C. I haven't even opened it yet, so I'm going to keep it. This is a blush that I got in a subscription box. It is from Doll 10. I'm going to pass it along. I've only used it once. It's not good or bad or anything in between. I just don't need it. Next, I'm going to move on to these new Undone palettes. These are wonderfully pigmented. They're absolutely stunning. You can get them from the drugstore side of Ulta. I love the formula. I love the color options. Oh, I'm keeping all of them. This blush from the Cream Shop. I have just swatched it on the corner. Other than that, I haven't used it, but I'm going to pass it along. These LYS blushes, they're smaller than the typical ones because they were in a holiday kit, but I've only used one of them. I'm going to pass these along. Another Mob blush. I love this color. I'm going to hold on to it. We have M74, another cream blush from Mob. Keeping that. Two blushes from Tower 28, Magic Hour and Happy Hour. I'm keeping both of these. I like this color of the Merit Flush Balm. It's in Cheeky, so I'm going to hang on to this for now, but if I don't keep using it, it will be one of the first to go in a future declutter. See, Makeup by Mario blush, keep it. I have 4 of the Say blushes. I'm going to keep Dreaming, Chili, and Spicy, and I'm going to pass along Peachy. I have one Kulfi blush, this Mindy Moment blush. This is fairly new to my collection, so I'm keeping it. Same with the Ami Collet Desert Date Cream Multi-Stick. This is a beautiful blush, a beautiful formula. I am keeping. These CoverGirl Dewy Tints I only keep around because they're drugstore, but I hardly use them, so I'm going to pass them along. I'm going to be keeping both of these new Danessa Myricks blushes. I have Rose and Brunch and Dancing Queen. I'll pass along my Profusion Blush Hour Liquid Blush. This is actually a really good formula. I'm just not reaching for it at the moment. I'm going to keep my Thrive blush in the shade Maggie. Also going to keep my Westman Atelier blush in the shade Poppy, fairly new to my collection. I love the Westman Atelier formula, and for the price, it's probably like Victoria Beckham and Lisa Eldridge for me. I'm not getting rid of it. I have this Ulta Beauty Cream Blush. This is actually a fantastic blush, but it's not that remarkable in my collection, so I don't think I'm going to keep it, but it is a really good blush. For now, am going to keep this blush from AOA Studios. This was $1. I really like how unique this shade is. The Plush Blush, it's a liquid, but it is like a cool toned mauve, which there's not a lot of blushes like that in my collection. It kind of looks like a bruise, but I kind of like it, so I'm keeping it for now. I am keeping my Gen C blush in the shade Apple. These are like a thin formula. It shows my freckles through, which looks really good on like a no makeup day, so I'm keeping that. Keeping this cute little blush from Kaja. I purchased this not too long ago, and I definitely need to play with it more. I'm going to be passing along these cheek colors from Pure Lisse. Again, like I said in my previous declutters, nothing I have in my collection do I consider a bad product. I just have too much. So there are some things that are still good, but I have to get rid of them. And these are in that category. Will work great for someone else. I just have so many similar colors and formulas, so passing them along. I'm going to keep my Liquid Flush Blush in München from Monica Blunder. I'm going to be keeping all of my Youthforia blushes. This green one is the color changing one, and then these three don't change colors. It's just what they are: a brown, an orange, and a pink. I like the formula. These in particular are wonderful no makeup, so keeping these. Gonna need a bigger box. Okay, I had to get a bigger box. I'm ashamed, but it's true. I had to get a bigger box. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to let go of this Milk Makeup blush. I like the shade. It's orange. I don't have a lot of oranges in my collection, but I literally never reach for this, so I think someone else will use it. I am going to be keeping the Axiology Multi-Sticks. These are the tinted dews, so these have a little glimmer to them. Color creams, which are mattes. I love the colors. They blend out really nicely on the cheek, and I love this sustainable packaging, so I'll be keeping all of these. 2 liquid blushes from Aether Beauty. I have Harmony and Wisdom. These are a really nice like gel kind of formula, and they also work really great for the lips, so I'm keeping these. 2 more little mini blushes from Westman Atelier. I have Coquette and Petal, keeping both. This is Work from Milk Makeup. I haven't even taken the plastic off the top, so I'm going to pass it along. Because it's so expensive, I'm going to be keeping my Glowgasm Beauty Light Wand in Pink Gasm from Charlotte Tilbury. I have 3 luminous putty blushes from e.l.f. I'm going to be keeping the orange because I don't have anything like that in my collection. I'm also going to be keeping the berry, which is St. Bart's, but I'm going to pass along this more everyday kind of neutral one in Bermuda. A lip to lid balmy from Axiology. I haven't even used this, so I'm going to pass it along to a friend or family member. I'm going to pass along these 2 blushes from Undone Beauty. Because I have those 4-in-1 palettes, I feel like I have these colors in those, so I'm going to pass these 2 along. I don't use this as much as I need to, but this is the Rose Ink blush in Azalea. I'm going to keep it. Hopefully by getting rid of some of this other stuff, I reach for it more. If not, it's on the list for the next declutter. This is an Honest Beauty blush. It's a really nice blush. This is in the shade Rose Pink. It's really natural looking on my skin, and I feel like it might be a dupe for the Tower 28 Magic Hour. So I'm going to hold on to it to see if they're dupes. And if they are, then I'll decide then which one to get rid of. I'm going to be keeping Bee Sting by Ritual de Fille. I like that it has a mirror. I'm going to keep both of my About Face blushes. I have Laid, which is a pale pink, and I also have Shagged, which I tend to reach for more just because it's more unique. But this formula is like cream to powder. It feels almost putty-like. It's very cool. I'm going to keep. I'm going to pass along the water blush in the shade Mauve from Undone Beauty. I just prefer the other blushes from this line, so I'm going to pass this along. Fit Glow palette is full of creams that you can use on your lips and cheeks. I just used this for the first time like a couple days ago, and it's really, really nice. I would love to use this more. I'm going to hold on to it with the intention of doing just that. Moving on to my Patrick Ta duos. These have a cream and powder, so I'm just throwing them in the cream category. I have She's That Girl, which is a pink, and Oh She's Different, which is kind of like a mulberry color. I think for now I'm going to keep both of them. This is the Carrot Color Pot in the shade Healthy. I love the formula of these Air Perez blushes. I always say I need more shades, but they're fairly expensive, so I don't ever get a new shade, but I will keep this one. Wrong bucket. This is the Rare Beauty blush in Nearly Rose. I'm going to keep this. I've only used it once or twice. And I have 3 LYS blushes. I have Self Love, Humble, which is the pink. One I've had the longest is Confident, Pass Along Confident, and Keep Self Love and Humble. 2 of these Sunday blushes, Spin Off Season 1 and Fantasy Season 1. I am going to keep Fantasy because it's a more unique color to my collection, and pass along this kind of brownie color. I have only one of the Make Beauty Heat Stroke blushes. Mine is in the shade Swelter. I'm keeping. And then I believe last for my cream blushes is the saddest part. All of my Phytosurgence blushes. I'm going to keep Condensate. I'm going to pass along this chocolatey one in Exothermic. My favorite one is Simmer, but it's got something on it. It looks a little sus. I know I've had it for over a year, so I'm going to get rid of it. My Inferno is definitely growing something. So I'm going to get rid of that. This is one I used quite a lot, but it's got the same like crystallized something on it. This is the shade Fume. Going to get rid of it. This one is fairly new in the shade Sublimate, but I'm going to pass it along, which I feel like is still pretty good, so I'm going to keep Fervor. There's not as many in this category, so let's go ahead and dive right in. First off, Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand. Expensive, so I'm keeping it. The Tarte Shape Tape Wand. It's just okay. I liked it when I tried it. I appreciate that it comes in more shades than Charlotte Tilbury, but am I reaching for it all the time? No, I'm not, so I'm going to pass it along. Milk Makeup Bionic Bronzer. This is a beautiful bronzer, and it sets down. Kind of a star product when it comes to no makeup looks, so I'm going to keep it. Another one from Milk Makeup, a new launch, is their contour stick. I have the shade Toasted, and I like it very much, so I'm keeping it. I'm going to pass along the water bronzer in the shade Baked and Sangria. This is just not a formula that I prefer. Passing it along. I have 2 of the Rare Beauty bronzer sticks because they recently launched a new shade. My previous shade was Power Boost, but it's a little orange on me, so I'm going to clean it off, pass it along, and I'm going to keep the shade Bright Side because I like it better. Fantastic formula. Merit bronzer in the shade Quince. It's kind of unremarkable to me, but I'm going to pass it along. I'm just really not reaching for it. I expected more than kind of a plastic component from Merit because it was kind of expensive. I'm going to be keeping the Beauty Pie Quick Contour. This is more of a bronzer, but I like the formula, so I'm going to keep it. Also going to be keeping the Flower Beauty Low Light. This is 100% a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury one. It does dry quickly, so you have to blend it out kind of as soon as you put it on. Other than that, it's great. 3 cream contour from Silk Naturals. I have Milk Chocolate, Praline, and Nougat. Nougat is a wonderful contour shade, so I know I'm keeping that. And Milk Chocolate is the deeper one, and Praline is the lighter one, so I'm going to keep Praline. simply because it is lighter and this is more of a bronzer shade. Right, I personally like the glowy bronzer called Bronzino from Tower 28. Mine is in the shade West Coast. I like it. I'm keeping it. Then I also have their new contour, but it's definitely more of a bronzer, and they sent me the shade Broad. I like it, but honestly it's not spectacular. I'm going to do like a full face of Tower 28, so I'm going to keep this, but just like in my blush category, this is on the list for things that might be decluttered in the next one coming up. I have this Oma by Sharon C that looks exactly the same. I need to do a comparison on these, so I'm going to keep both of them so I can do that. I have 2 shades of the Say Sun Melt bronzers for the same reason. Light bronze was the previous lightest shade, and then they launched Fair Bronze. I did a reel on these, and Fair Bronze barely shows up on my skin, so I think it's going to be more of a winter shade for me, so I will keep it for the winter. But I want you to know that light bronze I prefer. I think it looks better on my skin, so I'm going to keep it for the summer months coming up. I'm going to pass along this bronzer from Pacifica. It is kind of orangey, not a good color. They need to go back to the drawing board. Pass for me. I'm going to literally pass it along. I have 2 luminous putty bronzers from e.l.f. This one is a contour color in the shade Vacay Mood. This shade Day Trip. So I need to do a comparison of Bronzino and Day Trip, but I don't believe I'm going to keep Vacay Mood because typically when I contour, I don't want it to be luminous because contours are supposed to be a shade and push things back. So I'm going to pass this along. Westman Atelier highlighter in the shade Peau de Pêche in with my bronzers because, as you can see, it's a pretty deep shade and I thought that I could use it as a glowy bronzer. Unfortunately, it just doesn't really work that well for that purpose, and so there might be somebody in my friends and family group that is deep enough to use this as a highlighter. So as much as it pains me to get rid of a Westman Atelier product, I am going to pass it along. This is one of my all-time favorite products. This is from Oma Beauty. It's the Double Take Stick. It is a highlighter on one side and a contour on the other. These shades work really well for my skin tone. This is in the shade White Pearl. I love it so much I'm going to hang on to it. I will be keeping from Westman Atelier is the Face Trace Contour Stick. This is in the shade Biscuit. I really like this. I don't think it is cool enough for a contour on my pale skin, but it's kind of leaning towards like a bronzer kind of moment where it's a little mix of both, and I really enjoy it, so I'm going to keep it. The Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer in the shade Light. This is a very sheer kind of wash of color. I don't think it's meant to be a bronzer, but on my skin it does translate that way. This is another no makeup kind of gem. Fairly recent purchase for me. This is not a new product, but this is the Cheeks Out Cream Bronzer in the shade Amber. I got it so I could contour with it, and I'm going to hang on to it. I'm going to keep the little baked bronzer from Milk Makeup. I used to have the ginormous size that you could never use enough of. This color works pretty well for my fair skin. I enjoy it. I keep it. So I'm going to be keeping this bronzer from Persona. It is a little bit warm, but because I have like copper hair, I think I can get away with it. I just really like the formula of this. I'm not doing a good job of getting rid of things because I'm also going to keep the Soft Sculpt Shaping Stick in the shade Light. If you want a bronzer with more impact than the Skin Enhancer, you're definitely going to want to pick up this. If you're into it, it does have a brush on the other side so you can blend out, but that stubby little brush is not something that I usually reach for. So, but I will be keeping it. Another cream bronzer that I really enjoy the formula of is this one from LYS Beauty. This one is in the shade Motivate. So super creamy, blends out amazing, fairly affordable from Sephora. Definitely keeping. I have this Kaja Beauty product in my cream bronzers because the bronzer in this trio is a cream. And it does have a powder highlight and a powder blush, but for some reason the bronzer is a cream. It's a beautiful cream bronzer. I am keeping this whole little cute little cookie of a stack. Last but not least, I have Juniper Explorer from that same Sunday brand, and I'm going to be passing this along. I like the cream to powder formula, but clearly I have kept enough, more than enough for one person. Moving on to the little baby category of cream highlights. First up, Spectral Shine in Divine Daylight. They don't even make it in this packaging anymore, but this is a very unique highlighter. If you've never tried it from Phytosurgence, it's kind of like hard to the touch, but it just leaves a pretty glossy, natural shine. Unfortunately, this one is old because they don't even make it in this packaging anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. But the one I'm going to keep is Fresh Fog. This is the updated packaging, natural gleam to the skin. This is one of my favorite highlights, and it's like really underrated. This is the Vanilla Highlight in the shade Falling Star from Air Perez. It provides a really natural glossy sheen on the skin, and it does smell like vanilla. It smells like cake. I like it. I keep it. This dewy stick from Ciate London I got in a curated box, and I have barely used it. Pretty similar to the Westman Atelier lit stick that I have, whereas it's just a kind of sheen of iridescence. So I'm going to keep the one from Westman Atelier because it's Westman Atelier, and pass along the Ciate Dewy Stick. Highlighter from Skin is also like in the same vein where it's just like a dewy stick. It'd be really good for no makeup, but it doesn't ever sit down, so it will stay kind of tacky on the skin. For that reason, I'm passing it along. I'm going to keep this highlighter from Danessa Myricks in Femme. It is a really unique kind of pinky iridescent shade, and for my pink kind of undertones that I have in my skin, it really works, so I'm going to keep it. I have a Light Lock highlighter from About Face. The packaging is really cool, but this is a straight up gold and it's a little too deep for my skin, so I'm going to pass it along to somebody who can use it. Vive Skin Dew is really pretty, a little too golden for my skin tone. It's going to look much better on somebody with a deeper complexion, so I'm going to pass it along. I have yet another kind of pinky purple iridescent highlight. This one is Ice Bow from Ritual de Fille. I just really love Ritual de Fille, so it's hard for me to get rid of things from them. Because I have two others that are similar, I think I'm going to pass it along finally. Ugh. I have the Charlotte Tilbury Original Spotlight Light Wand, keeping because Charlotte Tilbury. I also really like this highlighter, the Bionic Glow from Milk. It looks like just a gloss on your skin, but it does set down and doesn't move. It doesn't stay sticky. So I'm going to keep for now the Rare Beauty Liquid Luminizer in Enlighten, but this is on my watch list for things to declutter next time because I have the powder version of this, and that's really the only reason why. This is a fine enough highlighter, but I really don't need two of the same shade, so we shall see. But for now, I'm keeping. I'm going to pass along this water highlighter from Undone Beauty. I prefer their powder highlight. Passing it. I really enjoy this Beauty Pie Triple Luminizing one. It's definitely a dupe for Charlotte Tilbury, so I'm going to keep it. And last but not least, in the cream highlights, this is my favorite cream highlighter probably ever. This is the Victoria Beckham highlight in the shade Pearl. It just looks like natural, juicy skin. I'm not even sure if the camera is showing it. I love the way it looks on my skin. Fantastic, keeping. Moving on to the next victims, which will be powder blushes. Make Beauty sent me all of their powder blushes. I know it's crazy, but I'm going to keep all of them. Their formula is beautiful. The colors are fairly unique to my collection. Anything and everything in blush that I could ever possibly want. So really I should keep these and not keep anything else, but is that going to happen? No. Ooh, keeping all of those. I'm also keeping the Persona Famous Bubble Blush. I got this CoverGirl blush because I was going to do a series about how there are things at the drugstore that have been there for years, and there's a reason why, because they're good, but I never did that. And I have another CoverGirl old school product that I'm going to keep, so I'm going to pass this along. I have 3 of the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blushes. I'm going to get rid of all but this peachy colored one, which is called Pretty Peach. I don't have a lot of peach blushes. I have pink ones, so keeping that one, getting rid of these 2. Well, people, these are the Super Powder blushes, and these are amazing. They're an absolute dupe for Hourglass blushes. I love them. I keep them. I'm going to pass along these 2 blushes from the Lip Bar. They're super pigmented. They're really beautiful. They have a sheen to them. I just don't ever reach for them. Again, doesn't mean they're not good. I just know somebody could use them more than I currently am. They call this a bronzer from Undone Beauty. It's kind of like a blush highlight combo to me. I love, 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 love this powder formula from Undone. I'm keeping this. These multi-use colors from Fit Glow Beauty in this palette. I use this as a highlighter, a bronzer, use this on the cheeks. I typically use this one on the eyes. It's a very, very nice powder. Nice, smooth formula. Looks great on the skin. Keeping. I bought the Buxom Wanderlust blush. I've heard nothing but great things. I've only swatched it. I haven't used it, but I would like to, so I'm keeping it. I bought 2 of the very unique looking RMS blushes. I'm going to keep this shade, which is Hanky Panky, because it has like a hint of blue to it. I'm going to pass on Maven's blush because it's just a tan peachy color on my skin. I think this blush in Flirty from Honest Beauty is a great dupe for the NARS Orgasm blush. It has that same pinky color with the gold, but I don't hardly reach for it. I'm going to pass it along. I'm also going to pass along these 2 Silk Naturals sheer blushes. I don't hardly reach for a loose powder blush, and they are indeed sheer. I'm going to pass them along. Fairly new product to me is the Haus Labs blush. This is Hibiscus Haze. It's absolutely stunning. Keeping. Love it. Found another Essence blush. This one's like a purple color. I'm going to pass it along. I just don't see myself reaching for it. They're kind of more glittery than I had hoped. A peachy kind of brown Mob Beauty powder blush in the shade M27. I'm going to keep that. Another sheer blush from Silk Naturals. I'm going to give away this Patrick Ta blush in She's Seductive. I really enjoy this blush because I found that it is a dupe, Pat McGrath Flirtatious, and Pat McGrath is like in the really, really gray area as far as if they are cruelty-free or not. So I'm going to pass along both of my Pat McGrath blushes because somebody who doesn't really care about that as much will get a lot of use out of them because they are a absolutely beautiful blush formula. So I'm going to keep the Patrick Ta one because I know it's cruelty-free. And then I'm going to pass along Flirtatious and Divine Rose from Pat McGrath. Hurts me, pains me, but I'm going to do it. This is the CoverGirl product that I was talking about. This is Instant Cheekbones. It comes in a few shades, but I have Purely Plum. Do not sleep on these from the drugstore. This highlighter is beautiful, and these 2 blushes, one has like more sheen than the other, and you can see it's a little more deep. These are gorgeous on the skin, melts right in, looks beautiful. I'm going to keep my Kaleidos blush in Dreamwalk. It's that very cool toned pink, but this one leans a lot more violet, so I'm going to keep it, and the packaging is just absolutely gorgeous. I keep it with the box because it has no other way of determining what shade it is without the box. The infamous bronzer from Bare Minerals. I have Kiss of Rose. I used to have all 3. I'm just not really reaching for these as much as I thought I would, so I'm going to pass it along. I have my Hourglass palette in my blushes because it has mostly blush tones. Well, really it has mostly highlight tones, but it has these 2 blushes. This is the Butterfly Ambient Lighting Edit. I am keeping this. Really, I bought it mostly for the packaging. It's gorgeous. I keep it. get into powder bronzers. This should not take long. LYS powder bronzer and Motivate. I like it. I keep it. Thrive Cosmetics Rhea bronzer. I also like this formula a lot. I keep. Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Perfector in the shade Light. This color right here really ruins it for me. It does show up very orange and glittery on my skin. Passing that along, I'm keeping the Jones Road Beauty Bronzer in Dusty Rose, very unique shade in my collection. I am also keeping the House Labs bronzer. I really love this like gel kind of powder formula. This is the Velvet Bronzer in Light Level 1. Also really enjoy the Make Beauty bronzer in the shade Lunar. It looks like it would be too dark and too warm for me, but it's not. I enjoy it very much. Make Beauty's powder products are just top notch. I can't get enough. This Victoria Beckham bronzing brick is gorgeously stunning. I never use it. I'm just going to pass it along. I want to keep it because of the packaging, but that's not really a good reason. I have the Ilia Beauty Drawn In bronzing powder. This is a nice bronzer. I, again, am reaching for other things, so haven't used this one very much. I'm going to pass it along. The drugstore bronzer that I am keeping absolutely is the Flower Beauty Heat Wave bronzer. I use the shade Sunrise. This is like a luminous bronzer. It's everything the Kosas bronzer wished it would be. I love it. I love the formula. Keeping, but I'm putting it somewhere else because I used it recently for a look and I want to remember that I used it. All right, the Undone Beauty bronzer. These two shades are too deep for me. I don't use these two shades as a highlight. I have something else from Undone that I like. So I am going to pass this along. And it doesn't even look like I used it at all. I just got this Whale People bronzer in the shade Sunglow. They used to only have one super powder bronzer, but now they have 3. I really don't know my full thoughts on this, so I'm going to keep it and continue to use it. I'm going to pass along the Beach Bunny Sheer Bronzer from Silk Naturals. Definitely keeping my Kaleidos Contour Trio in the shade Light. I love these colors. You have a bronzer, a contour, and like a matte highlighting shade. I really enjoy this. The formula on these powders are great. Then I have my Patrick Ta She's Statuesque Cream and Powder Bronzer Duo. I love this. I use it very much. Mine's probably expired, but I'm going to keep it until I use it up. And then last but not least, this is a great drugstore option. This is the Go Off Face Palette from the Lip Bar. So I am going to keep this, but it's in the lineup for maybe needs to be decluttered in the next round. Okay, now moving on to the smallest category, and that is my powder highlighters. Starting off with the very dirty, starting with the Undone Beauty Nonzer. Sits so beautifully on the skin. I love the different shade varieties. This one, of course, looks the most natural on my skin tone, but I can wear these on my cheeks or on my eyes. Love this palette so much. I'm going to pass along the Makeup by Mario highlighter. The shade Pearl. It's a fine highlighter. It's just okay. It's not extraordinary. I don't really reach for it. I'm going to pass it along. I'm going to keep my Ray Rider highlight from Kaleidos. It's like a pinky gold color, almost like a duochrome. It's so unique and I love it. I keep it. I'm going to keep Toy Alien. This is the Mochi Glow highlighter from Kaja Beauty. This is very, very similar to the Rare Beauty highlighter in formula and the way it looks on the skin. I like it. I keep it. Speaking of the Rare Beauty highlighter, I have the shade Enlighten. This one is just a touch lighter than the one from Kaja, and that's the reason I'm going to keep them both. I really like how punchy this is. I'm not afraid of a highlight. I'm going to keep it. This is a new highlighter from Cali Ray. It is the Highlight in Starlight Beach. This formula reminds me of an old powder highlight that Milk Makeup used to have. I had the shade Lit. This feels more like a gel and it looks absolutely wet on the skin. It doesn't look powdery. I need Cali Ray to come out with more shades in this. It's really a beautiful highlighter. Definitely keeping. Midnight Reflection Luminizing Glow Powder from Honest Beauty. This is with my highlighters The thought process was really for more like a finishing powder, but I found something that I like better, so I'm going to pass this along. I'm going to keep my Half Magic Light Trap highlighter. This is in the shade Enter the Glow. It is also kind of like a pinky golden duochrome, but Half Magic does no wrong, I keep. And this is probably the deepest highlighter that I have. It's definitely a gold tone. This is the House Labs Bio Radiant Gel Powder Highlight in the shade Sandstone. It has that unique gel powder formula. It does look more powdery on the skin than the Cali Ray one, but I still enjoy this. The formula is gold, so is the color I keep. Alright, that is it for this declutter. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you like declutters, and don't forget to check me out on my other socials. As always, be blessed and be kind, and we'll see each other again very soon. Bye!